if we think about social media, even if we have a post that does really, really well, we're talking like thousands of people who we might reach with a reel or a Facebook post. Whereas if you go into a local newspaper or even a local magazine, it's going into tens of thousands of homes. And if you go into a bigger newspaper or magazine or website, it's potentially reaching millions of people. So if you have your product featured, or even if you're featured as a dog trainer, but you're being quoted as an expert, millions of people are getting to find out about you and what you do.
Welcome to the Pet Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Scarlett Rockwood. As a content marketer for pet professionals, I love talking with other marketers and business owners in the pet industry and sharing their marketing advice with you. So join me for the latest episode and learn how to grow your audience, increase your revenue, and impact the lives of pets and their people. Rachel Spencer is a pet business publicity coach and works with pet business owners, helping them raise their profile in the media. Her clients have appeared in The Telegraph, Guardian, Independent, BBC Breakfast, Mail Online, Daily and Sunday Express, and a host of pet titles like Edition Dog, Your Cat, and other industry titles including Pet Gazette and Pet Business World. Each week, she shares tips on how small businesses can secure coverage on the Publicity for Pet Businesses podcast. Rachel provides consultancy services and runs a publicity coaching program, helping pet businesses stand out from the competition. She also works as a freelance writer, specializing in the pet industry for national newspapers and magazines, focusing on human interest stories, health, trends, and technology. Hey, Rachel, thank you so much for joining us. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be a pet business publicity expert?
Yes, of course. And thank you so much for having me. It's really great to see you and it's really lovely to chat. So it's fab to be here. So I'm Rachel and I help pet business owners get press coverage and with publicity and generally raising the profile of their pet business. And that all came about when I've been a journalist since 1999, and I got a dog myself in 2009, and I never thought I could have a dog. But one of my friends had a baby and the dog didn't behave very well around the baby. So I ended up bringing her to stay with me for a while, and then she never went, which was brilliant. And that meant that I started writing more about dogs and the pet industry. And that just kind of snowballed, really. So I was writing for articles for newspapers and magazines here in the UK. And then I had all these stories, but sometimes the article wouldn't be able to share all the information I wanted it to. So I decided to set up a pet blog, and it's still going. It's called The Paw Post. And then what happened was pet businesses would get in touch to be profile, to have something on the pet blog. And then when they realized I was a journalist as well, they were like, oh, actually, could you help us get press coverage? So it started with me sending a lot of emails backwards and forwards and chatting to people and stuff and trying to help them. And then I had the idea to write a book and put everything into a book. And then that kind of snowballed into a Facebook community, and then a blog, and then a podcast, and then a membership community. And now I'd say probably 90% of my work is working with small businesses in the pet industry, helping them learn how to get press coverage. So that's how it all came about. It was by accident, really, but I'm very fortunate. I'm very thankful that it happened that way.
That's so awesome. So why is press even important for pet businesses? Like, what is the benefit of a press coverage for a pet business?
Okay, so we are in this brilliant age, aren't we, at the moment, where we've got all these different ways we can promote our businesses. And without wanting to sound too old, but when I started in journalism, people didn't have websites. There wasn't any social media, and email marketing was really early days. And back then, the way to get more people to know about your business or your product or service was to get press coverage. And I think it's still really, while we have these platforms that we can control the narrative and the message on, and we can publish 24/7, it's amazing. I do feel that getting press coverage is really beneficial in the fact that it means that you reach so many more people in one go, and that can have a huge impact. So if we think about social media, even if we have a post that does really, really well, we're talking like thousands of people who we might reach with a reel or a Facebook post. Whereas if you go into a local newspaper or even a local magazine, it's going into tens of thousands of homes. And if you go into a bigger newspaper or magazine or website, it's potentially reaching millions of people. So if you have your product featured, or even if you're featured as a dog trainer, but you're being quoted as an expert, millions of people are getting to find out about you and what you do. So we've got that kind of that reach, which is magnified so much more. Then we've also got the authority. So, being quoted or having your product in a newspaper or magazine does give you that certain gravitas. We've got that building trust as well, because it's that third-party validation where the journalist is writing about you and saying how great you are, or quoting you as an expert, or showcasing your product and saying, isn't this dogly gorgeous? And that's that third-party validation rather than us saying it. And then from the other side of things as well, if you're getting backlinks, it's really great for your website, for your SEO. And you can add it onto your website and say, as seen in Huffington Post or Forbes or wherever it is that you want to be. So there's so many benefits to it. And I don't see it as something that you would just do in isolation. I think it complements all the other activity that you do. So when I'm working with clients, I always say, yes, you're going to get this press coverage and it's going to be brilliant. But what we need to do then is capitalize on that and literally get the attention that you've captured that person's attention. Let's bring them closer to you via your social media, email marketing, website, blogs, podcast. So it's a great way for people to discover you, and then you bring them closer to you with all of the other methods that I know you work with a lot with clients.
Yeah, that sounds great. That makes a lot of sense. So I think the thing that stands out the most to me is that third-party validation. Like if you look at it from a kind of an analogy perspective, if you hear about like guys going out to the bar to try and pick up girls and they always want to bring a wingman, like there's always someone there to talk them up and talk about how great they are. So if you talk about how great you are, there's a certain level of, sure, whatever, you're saying it about yourself. But if someone else talks about how great you are, someone else calls you an expert or quotes you, then there is just this extra level of trust and validity to that you really just can't get from anything that you can say about yourself.
Yeah.
So are there different types of publicity that are better or worse or more valuable to pet businesses, like getting in a newspaper versus getting on a news channel's show in the morning or a podcast? What areas do you think are most valuable, or are they all kind of just get out there?
Well, do you know what? I think they each have a value. And it also depends on the client as well. So some clients I work with some people who are amazing at going on the radio and they love it. But I work with other people who the thought of live radio, they'd find it terrifying. And to be honest, I would probably I've been on the radio, but I also find it terrifying. Where I have other clients who who are really comfortable with it. Some people will really want to be on a podcast or on a blog. And while people might see being on a small podcast or being on a niche blog as not as valuable as being in, say, The Guardian or Huffington Post, actually, I think sometimes it's more valuable because you've got that really targeted audience. So it's really hard to set, like, if I had to pick a couple of examples, I would say if you had invented, like, remember when all the fitness trackers for dogs came out, the PitPats and the FitBarks, when they first came out, and they were new, and it was like, oh my gosh, you can get this Fitbit for your dog or an activity tracker. This is really fascinating. And it's kind of like a bit of an impulse buy. So for something like that, I would say if that was featured on the Daily Mail website, that's going to be gold, because you've got huge amounts of traffic going to that website, and it's shareable, and it's going to be like, oh my gosh, I've got to go and get one for my dog. So that would be brilliant for that particular product. If you are a local dog trainer and you are working with people who live in a 10-mile radius of where you live, what I find with clients is being in a local paper is brilliant. Local website is brilliant. Being on the radio is absolutely mega. Like one of my clients, Zoe, she's a dog trainer and she gets a lot of press anyway, but she has like a regular monthly gig on her local BBC radio, and she gets the phone rings after she's been on the radio And it's that being in people's ears and that real connection and that intimacy and everything that people get with audio, and that really makes a difference. So the answer, sorry to ramble on, but it depends. And it's like, what's valuable to you as well. If you are a dog friend, there's a brilliant blog over here called The Dog Vine, and it's all about dog friendly London. So if you've got a dog friendly destination in London, or you're doing something really awesome, like being on the dog vine is perfect, because that's what it's all about. And yes, it'd be lovely to be in the Guardian, but actually the people reading the dog vine just want to know about dog friendly London, whereas millions of people read the Guardian and they might not be as interested. So yeah, I think it's figuring out what's going to be valuable for you. And that's, I know when you've done my challenges, that's one of the things that we do, isn't it? But yeah, if you're thinking about doing the press, really think about what's going to be valuable for you, and also speak to your clients and find out about the kind of media they consume as well. So yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing that a lot of people, I have my clients create a customer avatar that is a picture of who their ideal perfect customer is. And this is one of the exercises that before you get used to it, if you've never done it before, it can feel kind of silly. It can feel like you're making up an imaginary friend, because you think about, I'm someone who sells pet products. And the first thing that comes to mind is, oh, well, anyone who owns a dog is my ideal customer, but that's really not true. And one of the things that is on those customer avatar worksheets is how, what do they watch? What TV do they watch? What magazines do they read? What blogs do they read? What podcasts do they listen to? And a lot of times you just don't know until you ask them. And the purpose of this is to get an idea of what kind of content they like to consume, but it's also really valuable to know what kind of press you're wanting to get into, because if they are someone who, you may not realize that a lot of your clients watch, this particular channel that has nothing to do with pets, but it's just so in line with their personality, and that all of your customers pretty much have that same personality because your brand has that same vibe. It may be worth it to get on this particular blog, even though it's not a pet specific blog. So I think, yeah, it's really valuable to just ask them, what are your favorite blogs or podcasts or magazines?
Yeah, definitely. And it's good for you to consume different media as well. And also to think around your product. So I've got another lady who I work with called Julie, and she made her and her family invented this dog gate, and it's like a concertina style gate that you pull across, and you can use it on a stairwell, or you can use it on the front door. And one of the uses for this particular gate was when people go away in caravans and like motorhomes, because it means you can put it across the door, your dog's safe, they can't get out, but the air's still coming in and out and stuff. Anyway, Julie mentioned this when we were on a call, and we went and found there's an app over here called Readly, and it brings up loads of different magazines. So you can go on there and research different magazines to go and approach. So she went on there and she went on a mission to go and get in all these different caravanning magazines, because it's like a real thing. Like there's loads of different magazines that cater for people who love going on holiday in the motorhome or caravan. She got loads of coverage because the people at the caravan magazines were like, oh, it's something a bit different than, how to, cook on a stove, and it had dogs involved. And lots of 1 in 3 people here in the UK have a dog. So it was something that was going to appeal to lots of different people. And it opened up a completely different market for her to pitch to, or for her to make aware of her product. So yes, she was in all the dog magazines, but the caravanning magazines had a real impact as well. So definitely asking people is the way forward.
That makes so much sense. So once we've decided like exactly which publications are going to be most valuable for your pet business, the next step would be actually approaching them and pitching them, right?
Yes.
So are there different methods or different types of approaches that are better for different types of publications?
I keep pitching really simple, and the main thing that I love for people who are considering doing this to take away is that journalists do want to hear from you. They, particularly online now, there is so much demand. They have so much content to have to find. We've got rolling news 24/7. And there will be, if you can go to a journalist with a decent story, they're going to be really grateful. So I know sometimes it can feel a bit daunting pitching, But actually, as long as you're going to them with something valuable, it's going to educate, entertain, and inform their readers, that's okay. So I like to keep it simple and just tell people to email. But there are ways that you can get press coverage without having to pitch as well. So over here in the UK, we have something called journo request, which is a hashtag on Twitter. Now, I know Twitter it's kind of not as popular nowadays, but that's a great way for people in the UK to find out what journalists are working on. And another thing that we have is we have some really good Facebook groups where they are like communities for entrepreneurs and journalists, where they both hang out, and the journalists will ask for people to talk about lots of different things. They might ask for an expert on dog training, they might be asking for product, best gifts for your dog this Christmas, that kind of thing. And people can put themselves forward or put the product forward. And I imagine, I don't know, but I imagine there'll be similar things over in the States as well, that people can go and find, where journalists are looking to talk to people. There's an email called Help a Reporter Out, and basically you can sign up and subscribe to it. I'll send the link where people can subscribe. You can, if you want to put it in the show notes. But that's where you will get like regular emails, like I think you get 3 a day. And it's journalists saying, I'm working on this feature for Entrepreneur or for, Insider Magazine or whoever they're working for. And I need to speak to somebody who is XYZ, somebody who had ADHD, or somebody who built a business around a passion, or somebody who's got an opinion on this. And that is where you can go to them. And if you fit the bill, then you can say, yep, I can help you there. And that takes away that uncomfortable feeling of, I'm putting myself forward, I'm sending a pitch, this is quite scary. If you're going to them and saying, yes, I can help you with that, that makes the process a lot easier. So there are a couple of ways around it. You can just go and pitch and be really brave, or you can go and respond to what journalists are asking for. And I would say, like, wherever you are in the world listening, go and find, if you want to be in a particular website or in a particular newspaper or magazine, go and find the people who are writing for that magazine on social media. That's a really good place for you to start. And then you can start seeing what they're interested in. If it's a platform like Twitter or LinkedIn, where it's not, it's not too personal, you can go and comment or share or engage with them and just see the kind of things that they're talking about and start building a relationship. And then when you are ready to send a message and you pop up in their inbox, if you've already engaged with them and you've come across as being, a nice, friendly person, they're going to be, they're going to be aware of you, and they're going to hopefully be more receptive to your idea.
That's brilliant. I give that same advice to influencers who are trying to work with brands. I tell them, go and interact with the brand, be talking about the brand already, and then go pitch them. And they're so much more likely to recognize you and to, give your email the time that it deserves and actually read through it and consider your offer. And I think that makes perfect sense, that it would be the exact same way when you're pitching to journalists.
Definitely. And, if you like, we talked about National Dog Photography Day, didn't we, when we were chatting for my podcast? Kerry, the lady who created that day, she's a dog photographer over here and a friend of mine, and she wanted to be in the Times, which is a massive newspaper here. So what she did is she went and read the newspaper, found one of the writers on Twitter, and she just did a really great job of building a relationship, nurturing that relationship over the course of a few months, I think. And then when lockdown happened, Kerry had this great idea about how to use lockdown and being stuck at home and not being able to do anything all day to learn how to take awesome photos of your dog. So she went to this journalist and said, this journalist already knew her because they'd been chatting, and she just sent her an email and said, I've got this story idea about how to take Insta-worthy photos of your dog, how to make your dog a social media sensation. And, this journalist was like, oh, that sounds brilliant. Kerry got an awesome article in a massive newspaper read by millions of people. And she continues to nurture that relationship now, like 2 years on. And it is about if something is really important to you. Now, if you were to take out an advert in that newspaper, it would cost you tens of thousands of pounds or dollars. So taking a bit of time, same goes for your influencers, taking a bit of time to nurture a relationship with a brand or a journalist on social media, even if it's 10 minutes a week, think about the money that you're saving as well. And it's just going to make such a difference when you do go and approach them. And just think about like how you want to be treated as well. If somebody wants to work if somebody wants you to help them, you just want to know that they've taken an interest in what you do, they understand your values and what you're all about and what you're interested in. And then when they make that approach, you're more likely to think, actually, yeah, I already know this lady or guy from social media. They seem like a nice person. They're in line with my values. I want to go and, yeah, I want to help them.
Absolutely. That makes perfect sense. So, what are some of the key things that you think every pet business owner should know when it comes to getting publicity?
Okay, first of all, I know I said it before, but I really want to stress this point, is that journalists want to hear from you. They really do. They have pages and shows and broadcasts that need content. So they really want to hear from you. And then the second thing is that you are in such a brilliant position because we love our pets, don't we? We love seeing pictures of dogs and cats and other furry animals. So you've got a gift because you have a pet business, and that is so much easier to get publicity for than if you sold tractors or something like that. Do you know what I mean? You've got a real gift. And then I think the third thing would be to think about think about the questions or the challenges that your clients have got at the moment, because that's the kind of thing that's newsworthy. So we're recording this in the summer here in the UK, and we're going through a heat wave. So a lot of my clients have been pitching ideas around how to keep your pets safe in the heat, when to walk your dog or when not to walk your dog, how to make sure that your cat doesn't overheat, all those kind of things. And you're giving something that's going to appeal to a lot of people and giving something helpful. So always be thinking of that, always be thinking of the reader, and always be thinking of the pet parent who is the reader. And you can't really go wrong. If you go to a journalist and say, I've got a new grooming salon, you need to write about it, they're going to say, no, you need to take out an advert. But if you go to the journalist and say, I've got some tips on how to groom your dog and make sure that they stay cool and healthy and happy in the heat, and by the way, I've got a grooming salon, you're giving them something valuable that's helpful. You're getting the mention of your grooming salon, but the journalist is like, actually, yeah, this is going to be helpful for 1 in 3 of our readers who have a dog. So that's the way to think about it. Think about the pet parent, think about the reader, think about the listener.
That's absolutely brilliant. Yes, because I think there's so many people who, when they're thinking about, not just trying to get publications, but with what I do, creating content, they are trying to think about what they want to get out there, what they want to tell people, but they don't look at it from the angle of what is my audience getting from this piece of content or from this publication that I'm getting into. Like what is the benefit to them? Because if that's the piece that you're missing, then no matter how much content you put out, no matter how many publications you pitch, you're probably just not really going to get there until you get that piece in place. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a bit like, why would anyone care? And what, like you say, what's in it for them? So the editor might think dogs are awful. They might hate cats. So you've got to give them a compelling reason. And there are people out there, honestly, on newspapers who do feel like that. So you've got to give them a compelling reason to share what it is that you've given them with their readers or their audience.
Perfect. That makes so much sense. So now that we've talked about some of the key things that a pet business owner should know about getting in the press, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see pet biz owners making?
Okay, so I think the first one is, like we touched on it a little bit there, didn't we? They thinking about what's in it for them rather than what's in it for the reader, and just going and putting up boring things and not doing the research and not doing that nurturing beforehand. That can make a real difference. Another thing that sometimes if I work with people one-to-one, they say, oh, we've tried this and we've tried that and we've tried all these things, but nobody came back to us. And then if I dig a little bit deeper, I'll find out that they just sent a really vague email that wasn't newsworthy to editor at or news at, rather than, Rachel Spencer at, warringtonguardian.co.uk. So take the time to find the right person who's going to be interested in what you've got to say, research the publication. And actually, like, one of the things I always get people to do is go through when I say research the publication, go through it with a fine-tooth comb. So I've just been speaking to a client, and she writes children's books around dogs and responsible pet ownership. So she said, I'd like to be in this particular magazine. And I was like, well, have you been through, we talked about going through the entire magazine and thinking, right, which sections can I fit into? And they have a dog shopping section. So I was like, well, when we're thinking, I want to be in this publication, be specific. So when you're going to the journalist, you say, I have an idea for the dog shopping section, or I have an idea for the news section, or I have an idea for the health section, or the business section. If your business has won an award, sending off an email saying, I've won an award to the health reporter probably isn't going to get you anywhere. But if you go and read the newspaper and find out the name of the business reporter and send it to them, because they're in the newspaper saying, I'm looking for business news, please get in touch with me with your business news, and here's my email address, then the chances of you getting a win from that and getting your award story in the press are going to be a lot higher. So they're the key things. And then the other thing is feeling disheartened and giving up. I feel particularly when people are working on this and they're working on it on their own, and they're using free advice, like I've got a podcast, got loads of downloads and that kind of thing. If they try it once and they don't get anywhere, they feel disheartened and give up. And I think, okay, you've tried it once, you've gone to the effort of making a pitch and doing a little bit of research, just keep going, just try something else, or try the same pitch that you've written with the other newspaper or the magazine in your town or the radio station in your town. Please don't give up. And please remember that even if you go into a small newspaper, the advertising value equivalent would be hundreds, thousands, even, tens of thousands of pounds or dollars. So remember that when you're thinking, is this a good investment of my time? Because if you do get that coverage, it really is. So do try and keep going. Don't be disheartened. And if you do have something that you try and pitch and it doesn't land anywhere, nobody picks it up, you're the queen of repurposing. You just put it on your website, don't you? Put it on your website, turn it into a blog post, and you've still had value from that, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're having trouble coming up with what to pitch, then Rachel's definitely somebody to reach out to and follow and get in contact with, get into her Facebook group, because she's the queen of knowing exactly how to pull out the story from whatever it is that you're wanting to get out there. And I've done a couple of conversations with her where we've talked about my own things and the angles that she has thought of, like, Rachel, the angles you have thought of that I would never have presented it from that angle before. And now it's like, well, this is just so much more interesting than what I would have said if I had never talked to you. So definitely, if you're not already following Rachel, where can people find you to get on your email list and follow you on social media and all those good things?
Oh, well, thank you very much for your kind words, first of all, Scarlett. That's really lovely of you to say. And what I would say is, when people are thinking, but I know we've had that conversation, actually, people can probably just replicate that conversation that we had and just go and talk to a friend about the thing that you want to get publicity for, or the thing that you want to be promoting on social media, or whatever it is that you want to get out there, and see what lights them up. At what point do they lean into the conversation and say, oh, well, I need to know more about this, because that's probably going to be your strongest angle. But I do have loads of podcast episodes, loads of resources on my website about how to come up with story ideas, how to find places to pitch to, loads and loads of things like that. So if you head to my website, it's publicityforpetbusinesses.co.uk. And I also have a freebies page as well, which is the same website address, but /freebies. There's loads of free resources there that people can go and grab. And then my Facebook group is Publicity. If you go to Facebook, it's Publicity for Pet Businesses, basically, and you'll find it really easily. And I'll pop over the link as well. And you can opt in for my newsletter as well on my website.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, Rachel, thank you so much for being on the Pet Marketing Podcast with me today. I'm so excited to have you on.
Oh, thank you, Scarlett. It's been really great chatting to you.
Awesome. So everyone, if you are not watching from the show notes themselves or listening from the show notes themselves, make sure you do head over there and get all of those links. We will make sure that you get a link to the email sign up for Help a Reporter Out, and the website as well, because there is a website, HARO, I believe, .com for Help a Reporter Out. And then we'll also get you links over to Rachel's freebies and her Facebook group. Don't forget to be awesome, and I'll see you in the next episode. What was your favorite thing about this episode? Hit me up on Instagram @ScarlettRockwood to tell me about it, or ask any questions that you have about marketing your own pet business. If you know other pet professionals who would love this podcast, go ahead and screenshot this episode and share it to your Instagram stories. Be sure to tag me when you do, because seeing who's listening and hearing your feedback is 100% what motivates me to keep doing what I do. You can also join the Content Marketing for Pet Professionals Facebook group to connect with other pet industry professionals like you. If you'd like to follow up on any of the resources or links mentioned in this episode, you can find them in the show notes. Don't forget to be awesome, and I'll see you in the next episode.